Hello and welcome to HomeBuilder. Today we're going to look at job tasks and key dates. We're going to start by looking at how they show themselves in the system, and then we're going to look at how we set them up. Basically, the concept is that we have in our lot, going to the lot right now, you can see a summary of the key dates which we have established for this particular lot. I'm going to scroll down this page and you can see that we've got a series of milestones here, some permits and some pre-delivery inspection, those sort of regular tasks that are very important for us. On top of that, up here we have task operations. And in the task operations, the idea is that the site super will go into the system and will go and check off when things have been done and be able to schedule out tasks which are delayed or potentially brought forward, and to see whether there are any issues with any overlap or not. So those are the objectives. In order to get there, there are three different approaches, and we recommend you take one or at most two. I'm going to show you three different approaches today, and then you can decide which works for you and take it from there. We're going to start in the models, and this is the simplest option here. You would only typically take the option to only enter key dates at the model level if you had no intention of using the site super to do any tracking of the system, or if you just wanted one individual task which was done completely outside of any other tasks. So if I go into this model right here and I look at the key dates associated with this model, you'll see that I've got one key date for this particular model. It's color chart design. I'm classifying it as a milestone. It's something which has to be done. So you're welcome to use this. If you mix this with the more complex structure, you might find that sometimes you'll not be 100% sure which came from where. No problem using it as far as the system is concerned, but we recommend choosing either this mechanism of just having key dates associated with a model, or having full task analysis. So full task analysis is a little more complicated and involves setup of construction workflow templates. So these construction workflow templates, you have two different sorts. We have ones which are construction workflows, and so these will appear within the site super's menus, and that is something which they'll go through and they'll say, yes, this task has been completed, this is the date, or this one's been delayed and this is the new date for it. On top of that, you will see that there are non-construction workflow templates. So they're basically the same, other than anything which is not specified as construction workflow will not appear in the Site Supers menu. I'm going to go to the standard typical workflow template. You don't need to have lots of them like we have here. You really only need to have one. We're just demonstrating that you can have multiple workflow templates. And there is one key reason that you would do this, and that is if I look at this workflow, if I look at the workflow template tasks in here, you'll see that they follow a pattern. They start with drain and water, we move into foundations, we scroll down and we're doing our structure, we're doing framing, roofing, and so on. So these tasks happen one after the other. There's a certain stage at which they happen. I'm not going to go through all of the details in this video, but just pointing out some of the parts, and they take a certain amount of time to complete, a duration, and this ties in with the calendarization within the system. So you may have tasks which happen at a completely different time frame and are not contingent upon anything that's happening in here. So if I look at sales transactions, or I look at closing transactions, look at the workflow tasks in here, these can happen at the same time at the construction, and they have no bearing on the construction in any way necessarily. So I can make the sale of a house, I can process certain other transactions, and it doesn't make any difference about what's happening with construction. Anyway, back onto the main task at hand. What we're looking at here is we've created for ourselves a a construction workflow template called construction. And in it, we've put a bunch of workflow tasks. The idea here being that we create a task for everything that we're going to do, and we attach that to our planning lines. But that's, again, for another discussion. The point here is that we're going to create all of these tasks here, and we can put a little bit of structure in all of this. Not trying to cover all of the details here, just trying to give you an idea. Within each of these tasks, I'm allowed to put a key date. This is the same key date that we looked at before against models, but in here, it's automatically attached to this task. So if I do foundation inspection, it is associated with this key date code. Now, if I look up this key date code and I'm going to go and select right from the full list here. When I look at this key date code, you will see that I have a couple of options. One of them, and very importantly, is this a milestone? If you classify this key date as a milestone, it will appear in that lot card, and it will be there for the quick summary view for someone. And there's more information on here, which I'm not going to cover, but you can review that with your implementation team. So what happens then is I'm going to go, we've done this initial setup. I'm going to come out of here and I'm going to go and have a look at the lot card here. And I'm just going to make two specific transactions for lot number 4. I don't have to go into this lot to go and have a look at the task operations, but I'm going to go right into here. This task operations button is specifically intended for the site super. It will only take construction-based tasks, and it lists them in a slightly simplified fashion than what we saw in our original setup. So this is doesn't have the begin and end totals, if we even put them in. This is just a simple what did you do? When did you want to start it? There's a little scheduling button here where you can initiate the scheduling. I've already started this one. We've completed some of the tasks, as you can see. But what I really wanted to demonstrate here is how does my scheduled date go out? We have two different concepts. One of them is that you can start at a specific date and then work forwards and see when the whole project's going to be completed. Or if you want to, you can enter a completion date and then say, all right, when should I start this project based upon my anticipated durations? In this situation, I'm just going to do some manual overrides. I'm not going to look at the initial scheduling. So what I'm going to say here, for instance, is I'm going to say, okay, frame inspection's been delayed, but actually someone has already completed the heating and roughing. I'm going to show you how that would actually work. So let's just go into this framing inspection here. And I'm just going to say, okay, it was intended to be done on this date, but actually we're going to push this out 3 weeks. So when I do that, as I tab off of this field, you will notice that these dates all push forwards. And they're all based upon which was a predecessor. You'll also notice that as I click onto this, I don't even have to click, I can see it right over here. The predecessors for these tasks are all the same. They all say, well, as soon as the framing inspection has happened, I'm allowed to start on all of these projects here, do them as I wish. So what we're actually also going to demonstrate is something that may happen is that someone's already gone and started the heating and roughing before the inspection's been completed. And so we're going to go back here and they're going to say, oh, okay, well, they went back a little bit and they've already done it. So we're going to say, oh, we're going to schedule this one right here. We're going to indicate that that's happened. And this says to us, okay, you manually scheduled that the framing inspection was delayed. You've also manually modified the heating and rough-in time. And you've said there's a national overlap of 8 days. So we have this overlap button just means to say we did this 8 days too soon. That's not a problem necessarily, or it might be, but that's not what's important here. What's important here is that we can indicate that information. And you'll also notice if there were any tasks which were contingent on heating and roughing, then they would be pushed forwards. And then we would get a new date as I scroll all the way down to the bottom. We'll get a new date down here depending on how things have changed. So what you can see is that this information came in automatically from tasks. The durations were indicated. You can see that the dates are allowed to be scheduled in this manner. The site super can come into here. They can easily come in and they can click on complete the task, and they will the system sometimes, if you choose to, you can turn off this this little box. You can just have it completed. In our situation, I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to say, okay, this task was completed, and then it will the site super is allowed to complete tasks out of sequence if they wish, and go ahead, and this information will all be displayed and showed on the lot. as you have set it up based upon your starting key date codes. There's a lot of information in this. I hope that it is useful, and thanks for watching.